The Sonic franchise is one that often repeats certain level themes. Easiest example, Green Hill. Now, while Green Hill has definitely reused itself a bunch, there's a lot of other very similar locales that invoke green fields. Emerald Hill, Splash Hill, Seaside Hill, Palm Tree Panic, you get the idea. That right there is a repeatable level theme. Another example being industrial places. Scrap Brain, Metropolis Zone, Chemical Plant, Oil Ocean. Again, you get the idea. However, there's one theme in Sonic that I think resonates with me and a lot of other people. Obviously, you know that I'm referring to the city theme of Sonic stages. There's something so mesmerizing about them, isn't there? While they've been repeated through most games since the leap to 3D, I don't think they've gotten boring. I can't recall someone being like, okay, let's pump the brakes with the city stages, because everyone loves them. Why is this though? Well, I'm here to go through some city stages I find to be noteworthy, and talk about them alongside the appeal of city stages as a whole. Keeping the intro short because I know you all know what you're here for, there's no use in pointless build-up, let's get into it. Starting us off with pretty much the first city stage we have, Speed Highway. So what makes this stage so interesting? Well, this explanation will sort of act as a basis for every city stage and what makes them so cool and intriguing. A lot of stuff I'm about to say will apply to a lot of other stages. The concept of Sonic in a city alone is a concept that thrives off the contrast it provides. Specifically up until this point, Sonic ran through what was a bunch of extremely surreal fantasy lands to dumb it down. They weren't very grounded in the real world. These were not locations that you could relate to, so to speak. You couldn't imagine a place like Chemical Plant or Sky Sanctuary existing in the real world. Sure, you got things like Green Hill, but to be honest, nothing looks like this in real life. These stages were all detached heavily from the real world, which aided in the classic's extremely iconic visual identity of surrealism. But then we get to Speed Highway and suddenly we're in a locale that the average person recognizes. A city. Everyone's seen a city, everyone has been to a city. The large, seemingly infinitely tall buildings with other identically sized buildings stretching out for miles. And while Adventure 1 is a bit limited due to the hardware to fully visualize this, we can imagine this same sort of thing with things like the skybox in the background being packed with tall buildings. So then to have Sonic the Hedgehog just plopped in there, it's kind of awesome. As I mentioned before, the contrast is what makes this idea so cool. This fictional hedgehog running around in a place that you can kind of associate with places you've seen in real life is really cool. It gives a sense of scale as well that other stages can't. We know how big cities are, and to see Sonic run through one this fast makes his sense of speed really calculable, if that makes sense. It's easy to visualize just how fast he's going. You know how seemingly everyone as a child visualized looking outside the car window and seeing Sonic running with it? It's sort of like that. You can easily imagine Sonic running around a city, and seeing that in an actual game is pretty amazing. Now, the stage itself also does some really cool neat things to separate it from real cities. It's still clearly not a real place because of the way architecture works here. Seemingly impossible roads, loop-de-loops in the middle of the streets, you could not drive here. And that's, I realize I keep saying it so much, that's really cool. It's like a normal city was warped and twisted to accommodate Sonic's traversal, while still clearly being a city. And one thing I love is that this is never explained once in the franchise as far as I'm aware. People do live here, and because of this, it's definitely implied that they take these roads. How? I don't know, and that's what aids and what makes these stages so cool. They differ enough from the real world to be impossible, yet they're grounded enough to be relatable in a sense. But that's not it when it comes to Speed Highway, as we have a completely different section near the end with At Dawn. After a cool cinematic, Sonic descends into the streets of Speed Highway at ground level. We get a song change, the time is now at dawn as the name would suggest, and this is a lot more grounded and open. Cars now pass on the ground, the terrain is a lot more normal for lack of a better term, yet things are still twisted enough to accommodate Sonic. I love this stage so much, man. But this is just one stage. We've still got more to go. If you're enjoying so far, though, I'd be really grateful if you could subscribe, as I'm trying to hit 7,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I think we could do it with your guys' help. But anyways, next up on our list is none other than City Escape. Easily the most iconic city stage, and one of the most iconic Sonic stages, period. This stage actually differs quite a bit from Speed Highway. You see, Speed Highway, despite it being a bit grounded, still had its fair share of surrealism. I mean, the scale of the city was so big there was seemingly no discernible floor you could see because you were so high up until suddenly you weren't. City Escape takes a much more grounded approach. For starters, the visuals of this stage are way less wacky, zany, and colorful. Gone are the blues of Speed Highway, accompanied by the more subtle reds and yellows. Now the only things giving color are the cars you run through like it's nothing. City Escape goes way more in favor of the realistic department. You're rarely on top of an actual building, usually just being on the streets as you see them to your sides. By all accounts, this is the most normal a city stage has ever gotten in the franchise. While yes, obviously there are some patented impossible roads, loops, and what have you, they aren't abundant, and the visuals do a good job at grounding you really well. Now, I must say, this isn't a negative. While I prefer the more surrealistic approach of Speed Highway, I will say that I think City Escape feels more realized. Speed Highway could often feel a bit empty. There weren't a ton of buildings everywhere that could sometimes lead to your immersion being slightly broken. Here, you really feel like you're in the city streets with buildings as far as the eye can see surrounding you. Also, this only strengthens the contrast I mentioned way earlier. Realistic ass city, cartoony ass Sonic, it's great. Now, a stage a lot of you likely forgot about or straight up don't remember is Metal City from Sonic Riders. Now, I'm not going to act like I love this game or have played it a lot, but one thing I will always adore about it is the locales in the game, Metal City being one of them. Metal City is very reminiscent of the Frutiger Arrow aesthetic. If I pronounced that wrong, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. For a TLDR, Frutiger Arrow is largely defined by nature mixed with futurism, and that's exactly what Metal City is. A beautiful futuristic city coexisting with nature, evident by the ample amounts of greenery present in the stage. You'll be primarily driving on the actual road, but patches of greenery are very common. While I'm not a, fanatic for this aesthetic like other people are, I get the appeal and definitely adore it. Metal City is proof of this, as while I may not be a fan of the game, this stage is probably one of my favorite locations from the entire franchise. It's just so inspiring in a way that I can't fully put into words. It invokes the same feeling as looking at a beautiful art piece that you may not understand the meaning of, but despite that, you still feel emotion towards it. I don't know if you guys can understand or relate to what I'm saying, but that's how I feel about the stage. It's goddamn beautiful, man! This is also where you'll begin to notice that despite all sharing the city theme, you'll notice that these stages' visual identity differs quite a lot from one another. Metal City looks completely different from City Escape, and City Escape looks completely different from Speed Highway. That's one reason that people aren't bored of city stages, they're always unique. There's so much you can do with the concept of a city, so many different styles you can go for, so many different levels of realism or surrealism, and that's what makes these stages so incredible. Following it up, we have Empire City. Now this is more similar to City Escape in the sense that this level goes way more in the direction of realism, however it's almost opposite from City Escape in a certain way. You see, City Escape largely took place in the streets, whereas Empire City takes place way up high in the sky on the rooftops. Now, while you may notice this is seemingly the most realistic city so far, it's not that simple. You'll notice that the heights of the buildings are extremely high up in the sky, as in when you look off the edge of one, you'll notice that not only can you not see the floor, the only thing you can see is clouds. It's a heavily exaggerated depiction of tall buildings and skyscrapers, and because of that, we have another completely unique city stage that manages to differentiate itself from the others. Sonic also interacts with the buildings in really neat ways as well. The first thing that comes to mind is this small quick-step section where he's running on the wall of this funky shaped building. It's so striking, it's so badass. I think what makes this bit so striking is the fact that it is on a building. If this was in some canyon or forest, I don't think it would be nearly as interesting. This is where the contrast I keep bringing up really aids the stage here. Remember earlier when I talked about being able to picture Sonic running around a city and around the buildings? This section is exactly what I picture when I think about that. Sonic is so fucking cool. Rooftop Run goes up there as one of the most iconic stages, and for good reason. Its inspirations primarily come from Western Europe, including places like Italy and France. Because of this, we've got some really unique architecture and it looks amazing. This stage is defined by the titular rooftops, which stand out, and each of them are colored orange, with the buildings they're on top of having more subtle colors such as brown. It's more than a name, as you really do spend a lot of time on these rooftops. Now, while you did run on the rooftops of stages like Empire City, those were huge corporate buildings most likely, but in Rooftop Run, they're more like actual houses. This yet again makes Rooftop Run stand out from prior stages. It also does a good job at putting into perspective how fast Sonic goes. Seeing how fast Sonic crosses individual houses can get you thinking about how big your house is and realizing, damn, he could run past my house in a second. It's another thing that puts his speed into perspective, and that's one thing I love about all of these stages. Because you know generally how big buildings and houses are, it becomes a lot easier to conceptualize Sonic's speed when he's able to run past them so quickly. And the last one I want to talk about, Eternal Highway. Now, Eternal Highway isn't its official name, but it's what the community refers to the city stages of cyberspace as. Now, Eternal Highway is pretty interesting as it really isn't a city at all. Rather, Eternal Highway is made up of seemingly infinite stretches of roads and highways. Now, I think this idea is really cool and it looks pretty incredible. However, I kind of wish they did a little more. I wish they did the whole infinite highways things with buildings. Imagine buildings that sprawl seemingly forever upwards or to the side. Some Doctor Strange mirror dimension bullshit where buildings are sprouting out of other buildings, stuff like that. I just think more could have been done with the concept is all. Luckily, what we're stuck with is still very cool. It is a really striking visual to see nothing but stretches of road as far as the eye can see, and only stretches of road. One thing I also find cool is all the fucked up road signs that occupy these stages. Their placement makes no logical sense, and there's often 3 of the same road signs just inches apart, and I really like that. Eternal Highway isn't logical. It's almost like something you imagine in a dream. Something comprised of partial memories smushed together into something illogical. City stages in Sonic are awesome, and it's no wonder everyone loves them. I personally would love to see a city locale be prominent in the next mainline game. I'd love to see a full city be the focal point of an island or something. I think that'd actually be a dream come true if I could run around in an open city. What do you guys think about city stages? Which one's your favorite? I'm aware I left out some, so why not talk about the ones I didn't? If you want to support the channel, you can become a patron and get exclusive perks for just $2.50 a month. I'll see you all next time. Peace.